Hello, it's me, Coco, and today I have big news for you. As you probably already have seen from the title and thumbnail, I'm pregnant and I'm super excited. So today I wanted to tell you about some of the things that I experienced during the first trimester of my pregnancy and what I am doing to cope with this time. Let's go. One thing before we move on, if you have any questions or if you related to anything in this video, go ahead and leave it in the comment box below so that we can have a little chit chat about it. I love the community growing aspect of YouTube, and so I'll see you in the comment box below, and then hit the subscribe button if you want to see more content from me, especially about this pregnancy, because that is definitely the number one thing that is happening in my life right now. I haven't gotten a chance to tell very many people at this point, and actually at the time of filming this video, only a handful of people really know, although I will be posting this video later after I'm able to tell all of my family members. But one of the first things that people are curious about is whether the pregnancy was planned or not, and the answer is yes and no. It was a welcome surprise, and my partner and I had conversations about whether or not we wanted to have a baby, and I think we were open to it, but we weren't like actively planning or actively trying to get pregnant. So I wasn't expecting any of this, and it was actually kind of strange because some women report that the spirit of their baby, I mean my mom actually says this all the time, the spirit of the baby or the child visits on the night of conception or implantation or whatever. I don't know. I didn't have any of that. I had no clue when I got pregnant, and funny enough, I'm pretty sure I know exactly when implantation occurred, and it was on the first day of a 4-day conference I was attending in New York, and on the 4th day was when my period was supposed to start. So implantation, this is a little TMI, so if you don't like TMI, you can skip ahead a couple seconds, but the symptom that I got from the implantation was just a little bit, not a whole lot, of brown discharge that actually like smelled pretty bad. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Maybe my period is coming a little bit early. So I put my menstrual cup in and I started wearing my period panties, and all week long the period didn't come. And then I went home from the conference, and I live in Berlin. So it was from New York to Berlin, and it was a pretty long flight. And normally on flights, I get kind of nauseated. And so when I got back home, I was really tired and kind of nauseated, and I was like, do I have COVID? Do I not have COVID? Because it was kind of going around, but we had been recently recovered, so I wasn't worried about COVID specifically, but I was COVID negative and just like really tired. So I rested for a whole week, and then I went to London for some other work events, and my period still hadn't come. So I was like, this is interesting. Period's not coming. I'm super tired. I don't feel good, like I'm nauseated. And then another weird thing that happened was that my breasts got like kind of swollen and tender. That's normal for me leading up to the period, but then as soon as I get the period, it goes away. And that was a sign to me that something was a little bit off, because that didn't go away. So I bought a pregnancy test, and actually at first I accidentally bought ovulation tests. I didn't even know that ovulation tests were a thing. So I was like, okay, there's a strip that I pee on, and then I bought it. And I was like, oh, this is the wrong thing. So I got the pregnancy tests, peed on it, and like almost right away I could see that a little line was forming, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I'll be honest with you, I was actually completely terrified, because up until that point, all I had heard about pregnancy and childbirth was actually a lot of negative stories about the body, and especially about the actual childbirth experience. And so I was really scared, and understandably so. I think really wanted to not experience that. And I was also really, at the time, very focused on the career, what was going on with my work. I was really focused on that. And then when this happened, I was like, oh damn, like things are going to change. And this is not for everybody, right? This is just my story. The things that I was doing for work, it took a second priority to taking care of myself, taking care of the baby, and also just ensuring that I have a healthy pregnancy. That was like priority number one from the beginning. Yeah, I was pretty scared at first. So one of the first things that I did was go to the bookstore so that I could look at some pregnancy books. And one of the ones that made me feel the best was this one. It's called the Pregnancy Countdown book. It's pretty informative. It's 9 months of practical tips, useful advice, and uncensored truths. There's one page that you can read every day that has, 3 different little anecdotes or stories or whatever. I really liked this one because it made me feel really validated in like all of my feelings, because I was reading up until that point. It helped me answer some questions that I was having, like when is my due date, and simple stuff like that actually I probably could have gotten almost anywhere. So I got that book, and I just kind of braced myself. I didn't know it at the time, but I would be basically spending the next couple months like in bed resting, and that's the story when I found out that I was pregnant. It was also a happy time, and I was with my partner, my husband, at the time too, and so we really got to enjoy that time together, and I think we're still really enjoying our time together. He's been taking me for a lot of walks, and I'll actually get to like how I've been staying healthy a little bit later. Yeah, another thing that was really scary was having to change my insurance, because the insurance that I was on was for expats, and it was basically like emergency only insurance, and I needed something that was going to cover the pregnancy. So that was also something that was really, really scary, because I really wasn't sure how I was going to cover the medical bills, and I think I have it all sorted out. It's not like completely complete. I think this is a really like specific to me situation, so I won't go into it that much, but it was a really big relief when finally it looked like I was going to be able to get my insurance and I could schedule an appointment with an OBGYN, which ended up happening around the 11-week mark. And also around the same time I got that appointment, I also got confirmation from a local birthing center that I was going to get a midwife or a couple midwives to help with my birth, which I'm super, super, super excited about. I think one of the reasons why is because, like I said before, I was really terrified about childbirth before, and I also watched a couple films. Number 1, The Business of Being Born, and number 2, Birth Story, and they really focus on natural childbirth, and I just knew right away that this was something that I wanted for myself, not to be in a hospital setting and to have an unmedicated birth if possible, right? I'm gonna be reasonable about it. If there are any issues, I have no problem with going to the doctor, but if there are no issues, I think that it would be just like the biggest gift to myself and to my child to have a natural childbirth and to just be able to fully experience that experience the way that nature intended and the way that people have been doing for like thousands and thousands of years. So that just felt really right for me. Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to it now after doing that bit of research and seeing what my options were. So back to the OBGYN appointment at the 11-week mark. I was pretty scared at this point because I just didn't know anything about how the baby was doing, and there were so many things up in the air. At that point, before seeing any doctors or medical professionals, there's about a 25% chance of the pregnancy not being viable, and I was really worried about that. Number 1, because of my age, because I'm 35, which is technically advanced maternal age, but also it's not that old to be having a baby these days, to be honest. There was that, and also because it was my very first pregnancy, and I always just kind of had this thought that, you know, pregnancy and just the miracle of making a life is so major and complicated that if you don't get it right on your first time, it's okay. And that it's probably very common, you know, for it not to go right and for a miscarriage to happen. And so I was really preparing myself for that. But at the OB appointment in Berlin, I actually had a really great experience. If I were to do this in the US, I would imagine I would go to probably a bigger hospital and I'd have to sit in a waiting room for like 2 hours and the appointment would be pretty quick. But here at the OB that I chose, which was actually a family friend, there was basically no wait. I just had to fill out a little bit of paperwork and then I went in to go see the doctor and we just chatted a little bit, and then it was time for the ultrasound, which was honestly like one of the most surreal experiences of my entire life, because it's too early to do the overbelly ultrasound at 11 weeks, and so it was a transvaginal ultrasound. So they like they put a probe in your vagina. That's how they can get a clear view of the baby. And so when I was looking at the screen, it was like gray clouds, and then all of a sudden, bam, there was the baby, clear as day, with the whole face. I saw the whole arms. We could see the spinal cord. We could see everything. It was so emotional. Just like thinking about it. It was like really, really amazing. And we could see the baby like kicking and punching. And when it was time to take a picture, the baby decided that they didn't want to take a picture and started like rolling around and like not moving. So I'll put a picture of the ultrasound here. It's pretty blurry and looked like very not much like what we got to see, and I wish that I had remembered to videotape it if I'm allowed to. I didn't even ask because I was just so like, I don't know, just focused on just seeing if the baby was even alive. I didn't get to hear the heartbeat, and I'm actually not really sure why, but I think it was like not totally necessary because it was like definitely a living baby, like moving and stuff, and it was so cute. And there was no signs of any genetic abnormalities, and so it was a huge relief. My partner could also come in with me too, which was really cool. I think because of COVID restrictions, it's not possible for everybody everywhere, so I was really grateful for that too. So I remember on that day, the OB asked me, how do you feel about the pregnancy, I think in a general sense. And I was like, I feel awful. Like not about the pregnancy, but just like in a general sense, that particular day was really rough for me because it was a day after I had traveled and I was exhausted and felt super sick. If I did not have to leave the house that day, I would not have, but I wouldn't have missed that for the world. So that basically like is in a nutshell what my pregnancy symptoms were like. Imagine this. One day you go and you run a marathon and you do really well. So then that night you go and celebrate with your friends and you guys are drinking and you stay out super late, and then you wake up at a reasonable hour, and at that time you are absolutely exhausted. You're nauseated. You feel like throwing up. You're super thirsty. And yeah, that is what the first trimester of pregnancy is like the most tired. Bionic fatigue, it's called. It's the most tired you've ever been, just constantly feeling sick and super thirsty and like not sure if food is gonna help or not help. In my case, it helped a lot. I also have been dealing with a fair amount of dizziness. Sometimes I'm okay, but actually like most of the time, if I get up too fast, I'm gonna have to get right back down because I get like so dizzy. So getting up really slowly has been really important. Staying super hydrated. Already, I tend to not like to drink that much water. I'm like not typical American in that way, but I've been really pushing myself to drink a lot of water and stay super hydrated because the blood, I'm like increasing the amount of blood in my whole entire body and inside my belly. Obviously, a lot of fluid is needed for the amniotic fluid and to just like keep things moving and keep waste products moving and all of that. Lots of water, lots of drinking. Oh yeah, another thing is that the tender breasts at some point, like I think around like week 7, week 8, week 9, they were so tender I could barely touch them at all, and I had to like hold them when I was like running to catch the tram or anything like that. Like if I had to move at like a more than slow pace. I had to just minimize any kind of bouncing at all because they were so tender. However, they've been looking super A+ the entire pregnancy long, so that's probably been one of my favorite parts. Yeah, sometimes being a little bit bloated and just a tiny bit gassier than usual. And by that I mean over the past 3 months I've had like a few days where I was a little bit gassy, which generally isn't an issue for me at all. I'm just like not a gassy person, so that was also one of my symptoms. And what I've been wearing during this period is, thank God I have tons of Wolven tops. I'll leave a link below, and there's a discount code COCO if you want to get 20% off. But like, I love this brand, and it's just like a lot of these yoga tops that are actually a little bit compressive and really what's the word, like supportive. And this has been like amazing for me because it's like just what the doctor ordered, super comfortable, nothing digging in, while my body is just kind of growing a bit. The pants, like the flares are fitting pretty well for me, and also the bike shorts because they don't have a elastic band at the top, but some of the yoga pants are starting to get a little bit uncomfortable for me because it does have like that tiny elastic band at the top that kind of like cuts in, and as my belly is kind of growing, it's not that comfortable. Actually, let me show you what I'm wearing, and also the little baby bump I totally forgot to show you. So today, this is a reversible 4-way top, and as you can see, it doesn't dig in at all. I'm totally covered and supported. The material, it's like 2 layers of material that's pretty thick and supportive, which is nice. And then these are the bike shorts that don't have an elastic band, and so there's like a lot of room to stretch. But yeah, this is my little baby bump. It's actually kind of like barely there. There was a day last week when I was like, ooh, I think I'm about to pop, and then I actually look exactly the same today as I did like a week ago because I took pictures. I'm really wondering when that pop is gonna happen, but I've also been shopping my closet for stuff that's just kind of like looser and flowier. I have a lot of mini dresses and stuff that are working well for the hot weather, and the heat actually also makes everything worse. Just wanted to point that out. Okay, let's talk about food cravings. Probably the most notable food craving that I had, which I haven't really been having that many actually, but peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and just like kid food. I was also craving gummy snacks, which I never have because most of them aren't vegan, but I did find a vegan one and I had a bunch of them, and then I just got really turned off by all of the sugar. There's also these wraps, these Turkish wraps called çikolata, which are available in my neighborhood here in Berlin, and it's kind of like a wrap with like lettuce and lemon. The main part, oh my god, my mouth is watering just thinking about it. The main part is this like spread that looks kind of like raw meat, but it's actually bulgur with tomato sauce and spices and stuff, and it's super delicious. I was really craving those in the early days. Smoothies, which I made a little bit healthier by replacing my oat milk with unsweetened hemp milk, which I think has a little bit better like vitamin and mineral profile, and also a little bit of vegan protein just to make sure that I'm getting enough. Saltine crackers aren't really available here, but I did find these, which are like star-shaped saltine crackers, and I've been keeping these by my bed just in case I get really hungry. Can you imagine if your saltine cracker had this little like happy face on it? So I've been eating, yeah, a fair amount of those, and also just thinking about eating more fruits and vegetables and just keeping things healthy and as little processed as possible. How much I'm actually doing that, I really can't say, to be honest, because I'm really just like getting through the day, just eating whatever I can, because most of the time I just like don't have the energy to prepare food. Luckily, I have a partner who's been super supportive and has been making me food and taking care of me. and that's been really, really nice. So on that note, how I've been staying healthy, I've been taking a prenatal vitamin. That was like one of the first things that I did when I found out that I was pregnant. Was I went to Whole Foods and there were 2 ones, and one was 4 times the price of the other one, so I got the cheaper one. I'm not super attached to that prenatal vitamin, but I do know that it is extremely important to make sure that that prenatal vitamin gets taken. So I've been taking that. I've also been doing this prenatal yoga, Pilates, tiny weights class just to stay, active and healthy. So it's 30-minute classes and it's by Boho Beautiful Yoga. And maybe I'll leave a link in the description box. I've been loving it. I just finished the first trimester and the classes are split up by trimester. So there's 10 classes for the first trimester, 10 for second, and 10 for the third. And the instructor, Juliana, is actually in each of those trimesters as she's filming it. And it's so cool because you're kind of like seeing her go through her pregnancy as you're going through yours, and she knows exactly what you're going through. So it's really nice to be able to take a course like that because it's basically eliminating things that you really shouldn't be doing a whole lot of, which is like lying on your back, lying on your stomach, jumping a lot. I really appreciated having those pregnancy adjustments made in the course that I was taking, instead of having to just like do the math and do them by myself, doing another fitness class on YouTube or whatever. So that I really, really loved. And also it really helped me get more in tune with my body, helped me build my confidence, and just feel like I'm doing something healthy for myself and for the baby every day, which is really, really wonderful, and helped me connect with the baby more because there's so many times where she's just like, put your hands on your belly and just connect with the baby inside of you, blah, 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 like that kind of thing. And there's also a really cool pelvic floor tutorial that she walks you through. So I will do that either before or after my workout every day. And they're also like not super, super, super hard. She knows that in the first trimester, your energy is like rock bottom. And there were a couple that were a little bit hard for me to get through, but I did feel myself getting stronger in the workouts throughout the course. And the more I worked out, the better I felt with the other pregnancy symptoms. So if you're really struggling with that, I'd say just like get a little bit in, get as much movement in as you can, because it could help with the other symptoms that you're experiencing. I also downloaded a couple apps. One of them I got to help with identifying ingredients for skincare and beauty products. And I'll be making another video about that because I think that's its own whole thing. And I downloaded an app that's like I'd say probably pretty widely popular, but one thing I don't like about it is it's very capitalist and like constantly pushing products that you should buy for yourself or for the baby. And I just think that this period really should be about more than that. And so I was really, really happy when I found out about the Expectful app, which is I think it's marketed as a pregnancy meditation app, but it actually offers a lot more than that. And there are fitness classes. So I'm also doing those like interspersed with the Boho Beautiful maternity yoga, prenatal yoga class. And there are appointments with experts to talk about certain things like lactation or pelvic floor. There are courses that you can learn about certain topics in a more in-depth way, and it's like really not pushing lots of different products on you to buy, which I really appreciated. And another thing that I thought was really interesting while I was doing all of my research was like, what kinds of foods am I not supposed to eat? And is a vegan pregnancy healthy? Which I already knew that it is. But what I didn't know was that most of the foods that you're not supposed to eat are actually animal products. And to me, it just kind of like served as a sign to show like how bad these products are and have always been. And if they're not good enough for a growing fetus or a pregnant mother or somebody who's breastfeeding, like why is it okay for everybody else? That's the weird thing to me. I think that these products are not ethical and not really good for you in a general sense. And so I was glad that I was already avoiding almost everything on the list of things that you should avoid, including actually, because my life didn't really change that much. I just like laid in bed a lot more often, but I was already not drinking, not smoking, not drinking caffeine. And so there weren't a whole lot of lifestyle changes that I had to make, which is really great. And that kind of comes from just like mindful, intentional living from before I even was pregnant, because that was what was good for me. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about in this video is how I'm staying sustainable throughout the pregnancy and beyond. So number one is to not try to find solutions to every problem by just like buying something. So for maternity clothing, for example, number one, I'm shopping my closet, and number two, I will, take donations from friends of family members, and I also have done a little bit of shopping on a popular clothing resale site, which I'll probably make a video about soon and show you all the things that I got. When it comes to clothing, all the stuff that you need already exists like in the secondary market. Almost everything, actually. You might want to get your bras and underwear not secondhand. Do you? And then secondly, only getting things that I need and not just like a ton of extra stuff. Right now, those are my best tips for staying sustainable at this point, but I think I'm gonna have a lot more things to say later on. So if you want to follow along on this pregnancy, I will be doing follow-ups with each of my different trimesters and showing you how I'm having a mindful pregnancy, or whatever else happens. I have no idea what's going to happen actually. Next trimester is going to be pretty crazy because I am going to be traveling to the US and also having a little baby moon. That is what is planned, at least. Yeah, I'll have lots of stuff to show you, so hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already, and let me know if there's any questions that you have that you want me to answer in the comment box below, or if you have any kind words. But thank you for watching and hanging out with me today. I know this video was a little bit long, but I just had so much that I wanted to share. So until next time, thank you, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!